Now we are ready for our final investigation, and we are going to look at the effect of temperature on enzyme activity. So the first thing I'm going to add to my cuvettes is still the 3 milliliters of hydrogen peroxide, which is our substrate. And I'm adding 3 milliliters because our first investigation found that that was the optimal substrate concentration. So substrate's in. Next thing I'm going to add some deionized water. I'm going to add 2 milliliters of deionized water to each cuvette. And then the last thing that we're going to add is the glycol again. Remember that this glycol reacts with the oxygen product of our reaction, and it elicits a color change when it reacts with the oxygen. And I'm adding 1 milliliter of glycol to each cuvette, with a total volume of 6 milliliters in each of these cuvettes. So now each of our cuvettes are prepared, and I'm going to now put them into their appropriate temperature environments. It's going to pan out a little bit. And what you should see is that I have a whole bunch of water baths behind my spectrophotometer. So my first cuvette, cuvette number 1, I want that to go in a cold environment because I want to see how a decrease in temperature affects an enzyme. So I'm going to get cuvette number 1, and I'm going to bring it over here. I'm going to put it in this styrofoam, and then it's going to float. And I'm putting it in this cold ice water bath. It's floating in that water. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the temperature of the water in this cooler. And it's cold. I'm actually surprised I could get it this cold. It is 0.4 degrees Celsius. As soon as I take it out, the temperature increases, so I can't show you. But it's 0.4 degrees Celsius. I'm just going to let that cuvette sit in that cold environment. And then I'm going to get ready for my next cuvette. I'm putting some paraffin on it, because I don't want any contaminants to fall into that solution. And this cuvette is going to stay at room temperature. So cuvette 2 is going to hang out right there. But one thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to take the temperature of this substrate that's been at room temperature for a while, so we can see what that temperature is actually at for room temp. And looking here, looks like it's 21 degrees Celsius. So cuvette 2 is at 21 degrees Celsius. I'm going to move on. We're going to look at cuvette 3. I'm going to start to put the rest of these cuvettes in slightly warmer temperatures. Paraffin always likes to stick. It's hard to get the wrapper off. Here we go. Okay, here's cuvette 3. Covering it with paraffin. So now we're going into warmer environments. I don't want any condensation or anything to contaminate my sample. And this cuvette 3 is going to go into some styrofoam so it can float. And I'm going to put it in this water bath right here. And then let's go ahead and take the temperature of this water bath. I set it for 40 degrees Celsius, but I never trust the displays. It is 41.7 degrees Celsius. So 41.7 degrees Celsius for cuvette 3. I'm going to cover cuvette 4. It in its styrofoam flotation device. It's going to go into this water bath right here. And let's see what this is at. .62 degrees Celsius. And cuvette 5 is going to go into our warmest environment. Put some paraffin on this. Put it in its floaty, walk it over to the big water bath. And let's take the temperature of the water in here. It is 78 degrees Celsius. 78 degrees Celsius. So we're going to let all of those cuvettes stay in their environment for at least 10 minutes. Okay, it has not been quite 10 minutes for all of our cuvettes, but I'm going to do room temperature first because room temperature is definitely not changing at all, so nothing's going to impact us if we do the room temperature cuvette number 2 first. So let's look at cuvette number 2. We're going to make sure to blank this cuvette, blank our machine. Getting my timer ready. I'm going to add 50 microliters to cuvette 2, our room temperature cuvette. I'm going to make sure that I mix this well. And then I'm going to remove any fingerprints with a Kim wipe, get it back in the machine. It's 20 seconds. I have 0.012. We're at 40 seconds, 0.035. We're at a minute, 0.067. We're looking at a minute 20, 0.107. One minute, 40 seconds coming up. It is 0.147. Looking at 2 minutes with an absorption of 0.188. Minutes and 20 seconds coming up. I see an absorption of 0.227. Two minutes and 40 seconds, 0.262. 3 minutes, and I have an absorption of 0.2 297. And this cuvette is done. Cuvette 2. It's now been 10 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get cuvette 1. And when I get cuvette 1, I'm going to quickly bring it over here. And you're going to see that I'm going to get all of the water off of that cuvette and then blink it. After I blink it, I will go ahead and add the enzyme like I normally do. Okay, here's cuvette 1. Removing all the water. Blanket. And then it already has some paraffin on it. Add the enzyme. Put that paraffin back on. Make sure that I mix well. Remove any condensation. Get that back in the spec. It's at 20 seconds right now, and I see a negative number actually. I'm going to go with negative 0.01. At 40 seconds, it's 0 absorption. Now we're at 60 seconds. Still no change in absorption. I'm going to make sure that it was mixed properly. And now we're at 1 minute 20 seconds, 0.027. One minute 40 seconds coming up, and we have an absorption of 0.045. Two minutes and an absorption of 0.070. Two minutes, 20 seconds, absorption of 0.105. Two minutes, 40 seconds, I have an absorption of 0.126. And our last reading at 3 minutes for cuvette 1 will be 0.146. Notice we have some reaction in cuvette 1, but the color is not even close to the intensity of cuvette number 2. Let's look at cuvette number 3. Here's cuvette number 3 from that first water bath. I'm going to get any stray water off that cuvette. And we're blanking adding my enzyme. Making sure that it is mixed well. And 20 seconds is now 0.047. And 40 seconds we have 0.103. Coming up on a minute, our absorption is 0.174. One minute, 20 seconds, and our absorption is 0.246. One minute, 40 seconds, our absorption is 0.307. Two minutes, coming up soon. And we have an absorption of 0.364. Two minutes and 20 seconds. Our absorption is 0.411. Two minutes and 40 seconds, and our absorption is 0.449. And at 3 minutes, we have an absorption of 0.479, and cuvette 3 is finished. I'm going to get the cuvette 4 out of its water bath. Here's cuvette 4. I see some air bubbles. I'm just inverting to get rid of those. Those will impact how the light goes through the cuvette. We're going to blank this. And now we're ready to start the investigation for cuvette 4. Getting my 50 microliters of enzyme. Starting my timer. And paraffin on. Mixing well. We are at 20 seconds right now. I'm I'm going to say that that is 0.065. Coming up on 40 seconds, I see an absorption of 0.13. Now we're at a minute, 0.198. One minute, 20 seconds, 0.259. One minute, 40 seconds, 0.312 for our absorption. We're looking at 2 minutes. I have an absorption of 0.358. Two minutes, 20 seconds. Our absorption is 0.395. Two minutes, 40 seconds. Our absorption is 0.423. And then our final reading at 3 minutes is 0.448. Cuvette 4 is done. One final cuvette for our last investigation. This cuvette was in the warmest environment, removing all of the water, getting rid of some of these bubbles. And it's quite hot. Some more bubbles in there that I want to get rid of. Those air bubbles are going to interfere with how light travels through the cuvette. And we're going to go ahead and blink. Alright, this is blinked. Remove that paraffin. Check my timer and add my enzyme. Making sure that I'm mixing well. Removing any fingerprints or liquid. And we're at 20 seconds right now, and I see a absorption of 0.05. Seconds, we have an absorption of 0.09. It's now a minute. We have an absorption of 0.123. 1 minute and 20 seconds, we have an absorption of 0.152. One minute, 40 seconds, and our absorption is 0.175. At 2 minutes, we have an absorption of 0.194. Minutes and 20 seconds when you have an absorption of 0.212. It's 2 minutes and 40 seconds and we have an absorption of 0.227. And our final reading at 3 minutes is 0.242. Remove this final cuvette from the spectrophotometer. And our last investigation is complete.